Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin and DK in the background. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Excited to be here. It's been a minute. We took advantage of a little bit of the break and, did some focusing on family, focusing on other things, trying to avoid Ravens depressing news when it was depressing, and really just getting prepped for really, a brand new season. But we're really excited to be here, really excited to be back, really excited to hang out with you guys. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is continued input from you guys as we move throughout, the show's maturation and this season. But all that being said, Glenn, how are you doing, dude? It's been a while seeing you on camera.
Yeah, it's been a while. Hey, the hair has never looked better, Jimbo. You're looking as sharp as ever. And, my only regret is that I can't see you in person. That's really the only thing that makes me sad right now. But, yeah, it's nice to see you. Nice to see DK and everybody in the chat. Hope you guys are well. I know people were not too thrilled with us taking a break. But, boy, did we certainly didn't anticipate the amount of news that would come out of the castle. Some good. And some, certainly not so good. So it was not favorable as far as the Ravens allowing us to take this time and not flood us with a bunch of stuff that we should have been talking about. But we took the break nonetheless. But happy to be back. And man, do we have a lot to get into. But before we do, we got to shout out today's sponsor, which is BetOnline. And BetOnline continues to be the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. And the biggest betting weekend of the year is finally here, which means more updated odds and props for Super Bowl Sunday. So if you thought they had a lot of prop bets before, wait till you see what they have in store for this weekend. We have hundreds of prop bets, MVP odds, and exclusive in-game live betting. BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. Whether you're a seasoned fan or first-time bettor, BetOnline offers you everything and more to enhance your game day experience. Visit the website today and make game the action make the game day action. Look, my script is a little bit misprinted here, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not on Glenn. It's not on Glenn.
Let me get some edits. Visit the website today and make the game day action count a little bit more. BetOnline, the game starts here, and Jimbo, I didn't want to come back. I was originally going, oh, man, I can't wait to get back because we're going to talk about Todd Monken staying in town, the additions to the defensive side of the coaching staff, and all the excitement. But, Jimbo, we got some unfortunate news, did we not?
Yeah, we do. But before we get to that, I just want to say we have a celebrity in the chat. Don C, number one, is, of course, a celebrity. But the celebrity I was referencing was really my wife.
Legend, Tanya in the chat.
Oh, talking about the hair, of course. Appreciate it. Tanya's
looking good. You look like you stepped off of a Paul Mitchell commercial. I mean, did the Zohan do that for you? Did the Zohan cut your hair? That's what I need to know.
Yeah,
it's looking good. I know Bobby, if he's in the chat, he's gonna love it. Oh, by the way, quickly, I almost forgot. Happy birthday to my big brother TJ.
Yeah.
48
brother. Today. 48.
48.
No.
Almost 40, 39. 39, Jimbo. Dude. He's 1 year away from the big 4-0. Great brother, great dad, and certainly look forward to celebrating this weekend. And also belated happy birthday to my dad from yesterday, who's also, very close by. Great dad, and look forward to celebrating with both of you this weekend. Can't wait. But yeah, it's good to be back, but not on these terms, Jimbo.
Yeah, no, of course. Some people have already mentioned the chat, and we got to spend some time talking about Justin Tucker. And I just want to mention a few things off the jump that are apparent to everyone, but that we should consider. One, that if anybody else did this, what he's being accused of, I think that being
well, hold on, Jimbo. Can we lay it down? Lay it out?
Well, I'm going to get to that. I just kind of want to level set here. Yeah. That before we say any comments or opinion, I think it's fair to say, you guys know where we stand on this stuff. We talked plenty about Deshaun Watson, right? And so anybody else, whoever it might be, no one's above reproach. And, whatever the circumstances may be, if they happen to be true, I think there deserves to be punishment levied. Right. So I want to say that. But I also want to say that, and we'll get to this, Glenn, of course, but there's just a few apparent things that I want to mention. And this is, DK brought this up. These are old accusations. This is not something that happened, allegedly yesterday. These are old, and it is certainly still early in the process, is what I would say. So anyway, go ahead, Glenn. I just kind of wanted to mention a few things off the top because I think that those points are important to remember as we kind of walk through what we know so far.
Yeah, I believe the story broke January 30th about Justin Tucker, where he was accused by multiple massage therapists as demonstrating inappropriate behavior, sexually inappropriate behavior. And the initial report was that he had been banned from multiple facilities, massage therapy facilities, due to, again, this is a direct quote from the spa, according to 6 massage therapists, including that he did things including exposing his genitals, brushing 2 of them with his exposed penis, and leaving what they believe to be ejaculant on the massage table after 3 separate treatments.
Sorry. Glenn just said penis on the show. I can't help it. I'm a 5-year-old.
Oh my God. I'm looking at a totally different screen. I can't even see your reaction, Jimbo.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, this is, look, I mean, these are serious, obviously very serious allegations. And by the way, this story was broken by the Baltimore Banner and a combination of a couple different writers. Looks like Julie Sharper, Brenna Smith, and Justin Fenton. You may remember the name Justin Fenton because he's also the individual who broke the story of Zay Flowers and the accusations of some domestic issues with him and an ex-girlfriend. Those accusations, I don't know how you'd say they were resolved or they were. It didn't lead to any penalties, any suspensions, or anything like that for Zay Flowers. Same guy, same newspaper with these accusations,
and we did try and get him on the show.
He ignored our DMs, guys. Absolutely ignored them. But since that, there has been 3 additional. Since that first story broke, there has been 3 more massage therapists that have came out and accused Justin of similar issues. At one point, I have a statement here in front of me as of May of 2015 that was making similar accusations that he would, touch the inner thigh of the massage therapist, expose his genitals, and leave a wet spot of what is thought to be ejaculant on the table after his session. So since the stories have broken, in between the initial break and then Justin Tucker did release a statement denying all these allegations. I'm gonna put it up, and it's very long, so I'm not gonna read the whole thing.
DK's got some stuff right here on the screen.
Okay. Let's see here. I cannot be.
This direct quote from Tucker. I cannot be any clearer. The statement read, and they said, quote, "These accusations are false and incredibly hurtful to both me and, more importantly, my family," end quote.
Yeah, so obviously denying all of it, right, Jimbo? But, and that should be, I don't think that's shocking to anyone that he's denying it. This was the length of his entire, if you guys want to zoom in and try and read it. But, yeah, basically denying it categorically. Like he's saying this did not happen, that the newspaper was deliberately misconstruing events as nefarious, and we're relying on third-party speculation to create a false preconceived narrative that they believe would generate clicks. Now, Jimbo, he also, yes, here it goes. And later on in the statement, you can see near the bottom, he said that it prompted him to hire a defamation attorney because the newspaper made no effort to reach out to his side to interview any key witnesses. So he's defending himself. He's saying, look, this didn't happen, which, look, we obviously don't know what happened here, but if what's being accused comes out to be the facts and what actually happened, then, he should face any and all penalties that the NFL and the Ravens want to levy on him. And I'd be fully supportive of that. However, we do have to make sure we see what happens, right? Like it's such a tough situation, Jimbo. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. So it's from the Banner. Through an attorney, the owner of GQ, Craig Martin, said he was unaware of any complaints against Tucker. This is the owner of the massage parlor in which he was allegedly where one of the worker had stated that she had submitted some reports and he was allegedly asked to be removed from. So my very first statement for people in the chat was that anybody that does this should be punished at the highest order. I just thought it was funny that Glenn said penis.
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody's coming out with, the nicknames and all that stuff. And it just feels weird to do too much joking about that, because if these accusations are true, then, obviously, I'm not a woman, but I can imagine that this could be, something, especially with the star power that Justin Tucker has in this area. It'd be tough to come out with these, because you could have concerns of people accusing you of making things up or defending Justin Tucker because of the star that he is. But at the same time, we have heard of issues where people do just that. They do falsify and embellish and exaggerate scenarios, especially with people in the public light. So we're just going to have to wait and see exactly what all happens. But not good, man. Not good.
No, not good. And certainly for a franchise that has a zero tolerance policy in a lot of ways, they've talked about that. So I wouldn't expect that he's around if these. I do believe that the Ravens will allow due process to play out. I think that they give their players that for the most part. And I think they will do that here, but I also think that the result of whatever the outcomes are will be swift. So yeah, it's a tough situation, and also something that is clear in that if there's evidence that this was the case, I mean, I think we know what should come of him, right? So I don't think we're going to waver there.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, have to. Yeah, tough spot. But, look, a lot of Ravens fans were waiting for a reason to move on from Justin Tucker, and they might have just gotten not a good one. I mean, a good one in the sense of it will certainly get rid of him if things prove to be true. But I know a lot of Ravens fans were waiting for a reason to get this guy out of here after his last year's performance. Didn't want this to be the reason, of course, but some people I think are getting what they wanted. But yeah, he will be released. I would think if the Ravens, I'm sure the Ravens are doing some sort of investigation. I know the NFL is doing an investigation. So whatever they find, I'm sure they'll act accordingly. Like you said, zero tolerance typically for the Ravens for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Damn. That's terrible, Jimbo. Why the hell did this have to happen? It's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's really unfortunate for those folks that were victims and to the team, to Justin, everybody involved, right? It's just
what are you doing, dude?
Right. You have nothing better to do. It's stupid.
Doing?
What's the obsession with?
It's so strange. I don't get with these massage. What is?
Right. Imagine how awkward, just the awkwardness of this interaction, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
It's absolutely silly. But yeah, no charges. DK did point out no charges have been filed. Sure. I don't think any civil either. Not just criminal, but I don't think any civil either. But man, if these are true, what the frick, dude? What are you doing? It just makes absolutely no sense. And obviously he'll be off the team, and we'll have to move on. But we'll have to wait and see, how it plays out. But all right, so let's go to the more positive story, Jimbo. I'm sure we'll be talking about this throughout the offseason, so we'll have plenty of opportunity. But there's so much that went down and so much more to be kind of excited about. And go no further than, look, there was a lot of issues Ravens fans had with Todd Monken conducting, even if they are preliminary and virtual job interviews for open head coaching jobs. And I think they were pissed off about him potentially dividing his attention between those two things, preparing for an AFC champion or division playoff game and preparing to do interviews with the Chicago Bears and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I think Ravens fans should at least be happy in that he was not successful. It looked the Ravens have announced that the offensive coordinator Todd Monken has reached an agreement on a contract extension with the team. So Jimbo, he's going to be here going forward, and that's exciting. I mean, I know that the continuity will help. Obviously, this was a historic offense, an offense that led the league in both attempts from the ground and attempts through the air, yards per attempt in both those areas, which is absolutely historic. But do you also look at this? Was this Todd Monken's last hurrah at the head coaching carousel? Does the extension prove to that to some degree? And do you think this is his last time going through the ring of the head coaching interviews?
Yeah, I think that people like to say that ageism isn't a thing and that nepotism isn't a thing, but it's certainly blatant and a thing in the NFL. And in the coaching ranks, ageism is real. If you aren't, I mean, think of the guys that are 65 plus, that are 60 plus. I mean, if you aren't Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, and John Harbaugh's not even 65. He's one of the old guys now, right? Yep. Like if you aren't a few select names, goodness gracious, the Falcons had the audacity to just not hire Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Right? To just choose to not hire Bill Belichick. I'm not saying they did right or wrong, but my point is that I think that there's a real younger push.
And then Pete Carroll.
Well, yeah, I mentioned Pete Carroll too. Yeah, right. And then he goes get hired by the Raiders, man. That'll be interesting to see.
Did you see? You know what's funny about his presser is they announced the general manager and Pete Carroll at the same time. The general manager is like half the age of Pete Carroll, and the new GM was telling a story. He's like, "Yeah, I still got my high school coach. He's still coaching. He's 70. The guy just won't give it up." Pete Carroll's sitting right next to him at 72 years old. He taps him on the shoulder. He's like, "You too, Pete. You know, you're going." It's like he literally just said he's 70. He won't quit. And then he's introducing his head coach who's older than that. It was hilarious.
Yeah. No, he's a special guy in a lot of ways from an energy perspective and output perspective. So yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm actually interested to see what happens there in Vegas. But so my point is that I do think that there's a movement towards younger coaches running teams. And I think that's one of the reasons why Monken got left off the table. I mean, statistically speaking, I don't know how you can get much better, at least if you're talking about offense. I also think that teams, when you want to right or wrong, when teams hire head coach, I think there's a certain boisterousness about it, right? There needs to be they need to be able to galvanize, to bring people together. They need to be, magnetic in the way they draw people in. I don't know if Monken has that. I don't know. And he doesn't need to be a successful coach as an offensive coordinator and run a historic offense. I'm not saying that those things are required. I just don't know if it's there, and that's what a lot of teams look at. Let's be honest, Glenn, right? Like there are firms in the United States that are way better at hiring and take hiring much more serious than the NFL even, right? Like a lot of it is like feel. Who do I like? Who do I know likes this guy? Yeah. Give me some references. I feel good about this guy. Because the pool of subject matter experts about coaching in the NFL is small. So how do you do it? There's some guesswork here. You know what I mean?
Not like the draft in a lot of ways. It's a lot of luck goes involved.
Right. Absolutely. Because timing, the staff that's around you, the players that you have, there's other dynamics that really simply matter here. So, they could have, and let's be honest, the Jags don't have the best track record of hiring people.
Right.
So,
saying it lightly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, the fact that they passed on him maybe is not a surprise. Maybe they passed on a guy they shouldn't have passed on. Right.
Yeah. It could ultimately be a mistake. We won't know, but a lot of these young guys get hired and fired shortly thereafter them getting hired. So maybe a team did miss out on Todd Monken, but the Ravens certainly benefited. I think him and Lamar, obviously have a good working relationship. It's led to crazy amounts of success. He's got our offense to places where I don't think anyone could have predicted that we would be that good that quickly on the ground and through the air both. Like, I think even the ones most optimistic about bringing Monken in and getting a more air-driven attack we'll keep the run game still, good, top 10 or at least, at the very least top 12. And we'll try and get the passing game to top 10, maybe even to in the top 5. but I don't think anyone predicted that they had this type of success. Now, of course, Lamar makes a big difference. Henry, go down the line. It's not just Todd Monken, but I think the point is that those guys work well together. And I'm glad that they're heading into this next offseason because now the holes are so apparent on the offensive side of the ball, in my opinion. Like, they just, like, I don't go into this season going, wow, we are desperate to draft a receiver at the top portion. Now, it'd be nice to add a third receiver, particularly a big body guy, but we could maybe check that box off in free agency. Like, I feel like this year, it's pretty clear that you need to continue to develop the offensive line and just to have such a narrow focus. You don't have to worry about bringing a new offensive scheme and who's the coach is going to be. No, you got all that in the same. The language is going to say the same. Everybody the key players coming back won't have to learn new verbiage. No, they can focus on the details, the granular stuff that I think will get them over the hump. And so I am hyped that this offensive staff is staying together, that pretty much the offensive, the guys who contribute the most are going to be the same guys here next year. And now we just got to continue to fill out this team and focus on the details, Jimbo.
Yeah, I think the one piece that will be interesting to be looked at, of course, will be the left tackle spot. What do we do with Ronnie? How does that play itself out? But you're absolutely right, Glenn. I mean, the continuity is exciting because this allows – I think that in every place of the draft, the Ravens do well as far as, if we're in a situation where we're in the first round and we're early, later, middle, not only that placement, but also if we have a lot of obvious needs or we don't, I think the Ravens always do a good job in the draft generally. I think it's a pretty safe statement. I'm making safe statements for the rest of the show because I don't want to get destroyed for not doing so. Yeah. But goodness gracious. But somebody's going to walk up on stage and slap me. But I do think that this gives Eric and his staff a real opportunity to shine when they want to start to add to the offense in the draft. Because now you can have, not that you don't have fun before, but you can have a little fun here, right? And start to say, I know what I need, but what do I want? What's the cherry on top here?
And it certainly allows you also to, if you have a scenario where a Kyle Hamilton falls into your lap, that you can truly pick the best player available because you're not going to have a glaring need that you like. The big thing is Stanley, because if they don't get Stanley back, then it's like we might have to take a first-round tackle because if we want to compete, we can't pick a fourth-round tackle.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, but outside of that though, there's other drafts we go in last year. We had way more question marks on the offensive, just on the offensive line alone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, I think it's going to be really fun and interesting. This is the year where I feel like we get a Kyle Hamilton type guy. Yeah. It's a guy that you're like, did the Ravens need that? But then literally like 4 months down the road, you're like, oh,
he's a GOAT.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And year two, he's all pro type guy. Now, we'll say the one thing that I don't think happens is I don't think I don't think the plan is to put him at left tackle eventually. I don't think so, Rosengarten.
Yeah.
I think they found a right tackle, and that's what they're going to – that's my take. I don't know if you've heard or seen otherwise, but I don't think the idea is to swing him to left.
No, I think there's been fans kicking around that idea, and I do think his skill set – like, do I think he could do it? Yeah. I think Roger could do it for sure. He's got the athletic like he's maybe the most athletic tackle in the entire league. And he's going to only get stronger, and he's got the frame to put on that strength. But why mess with – I mean, because it's going to be a learning curve at the very least. Like, we know it. Like, if he starts and just continues at right tackle, he's got all-pro – I mean, he's got Pro Bowl next year and then all-pro future at right tackle. Left tackle, if he switches, it's going to be another process where we're like, we're going to have to go through some bumps. We're going to have to go through the growing pain.
It's like 2 steps forward. One step forward, 2 steps back type thing.
Yeah. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just go get Stanley, bring him back for another couple years, and then you go into the draft without any glaring needs on the offense, and you can truly do BPA or pick your present, like you said.
Yep. I like that.
He's not the best, but man, this dude would look good in purple. Let's get him.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, Glenn. And so I'm with you there. I say, I don't know if I'm sure there's a whole faction of people that are against the Ravens bringing back Stanley, but Stanley has never played bad when he's been truly healthy.
Right.
He's always played up to his draft status when he's been healthy. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Now, he's obviously had a lot of unhealth, like moments of being unhealthy in his career, a lot of injuries and things like that. But yeah, so that to me, it's nice to know that like it's not a question of performance. He's not going to fall off, right? Like we kind of know what you're going to get as long as he can stay healthy. But the cool thing here, Glenn, is that we kind of started this conversation offensively, talking about the coach. That wasn't all we've done from a coaching staff perspective. We made another big splash on defense, and really this wouldn't make the news generally because he's a secondary coach, right? This would not be – now this would make our news, but it wouldn't make like ESPN or, you know, stuff like that. But Chuck Pagano, the Chuck Pagano is now – he's come out of retirement. He's leaving Idaho and Sun Valley, beautiful Sun Valley, and he's coming back to Baltimore, baby. And he's going to be the Baltimore Ravens secondary coach. Dude, how excited were you when you saw this?
Oh, I mean, he's a Raven. He's coming home. I mean, when Chuck was here, he was obviously a favorite of the fans. Fans loved him when he left. It was sad. It was a bummer. But we constantly got to see him, on occasion, I should say, over the last year and year and a half on Pat McAfee. And man, love listening to the guy talk. Yeah. You can tell the players loved him. Like he was a player's coach. But to see him come back, man, it was cool, man. It was awesome. And to see his reaction to it, he's obviously extremely excited. And man, has Pat McAfee been good to coaches, to players? Like anybody who comes on Pat McAfee's show tends to get a big time job. I mean, we saw, he was on, who was it? Kyle Van Noy was spending a lot of time on there before he joins the Ravens. Bill Belichick spent a lot of time. Now, I mean, he's with UNC. Now, now Chuck Pagano. I mean, it seems like anybody who gets touched by the Pat McAfee show ends up getting a big time gig. But yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I think what it is just showing is that it's the Ravens are really all in from a coaching standpoint. This isn't a year where they're looking to develop young guys. Like there's been a lot of times where John has taken on a lot of young coaches. Just last year, the linebacker coach was young from Michigan. The defensive coordinator, I mean, he's younger than us, Jimbo. I mean, Zach Orr was 9 years ago. He was playing. Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of younger guys kind of supporting him. And then we saw the first step, which was getting Dean Peace back here, trying to help out because he was originally a secondary coach, getting that secondary figured out. And now you double down with another secondary ball coach, older guy. So now Peace and Pagano are on the team. Zach Orr has all the resources he needs to really just focus on doing what he did at the end of last year, which was call a hell of a game and really make this defense one of the best in the league. So I love this all-in coaching staff perspective. He's not kidding these young guys and saying, well, we'll help you. No, I want some older guys who know what the hell they're doing because this is the year we're going to get it all done.
Yeah, I love that, and I agree with you there. I mean, I think that also – and this is more of a negative spin on it, right? Like, I hope Zach doesn't fail. I hope he succeeds. But if something happens to Zach, whether that's he gets hired somewhere else, he kills it next year, say he kills it, gets hired as head coach. He's plenty young. He fits the profile, right? Say he goes out there, kills it, gets hired as a head coach somewhere.
Yeah.
You got a guy. Now, Pagano talked about wanting to be a position coach.
Yeah.
And, why that was appealing to him. But I think if John, nudged him and said, hey, I need you at DC. You have a kind of guy that's built in, that's been there for a year. So you have, you talked about continuity. I think there's a lot of value is what I'm trying to say to Pagano being on outside of, the things that you mentioned. I think having some contingencies in place are also valuable as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I kind of look at Zach Orr as he's the guy. He's going to be the
John?
guy. I think he's going to be the head coach after John. I think that's the plan.
Ooh.
I think that was the plan for Weaver, and Weaver didn't want to stick around and wait for it. So
see how that's turned out for him.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the plan for Zach Orr eventually. Which, hey, hopefully John can get him where he needs to be, because that would be kind of cool. It'd be a great story.
It'd be an excellent story, like D'Amico Ryans.
Exactly, and you're an all-pro for a team, and then you end up being the head coach. It's pretty dope. But also, quickly, just wanted to mention the Ravens' defensive assistant. Chris Hewitt will not be back, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, inside linebacker coach Mark DeLeon are two departures from the staff.
Do we know anything about the O-line coach that took over for Coach oh my gosh. Coach D, right? Yeah.
Yeah, D'Alessandro's.
Yeah.
Was it Warhol, I believe is his name? I haven't heard anything about him, so
Okay.
as far as I know, he's still the coach right now. But did want to mention that the Ravens hired Georgia Tech defensive coordinator Tyler Santucci as their new inside linebackers coach, replacing Mark DeLeon after he left. So Santucci has been defensive coordinator at Duke, at Georgia Tech, and has recently received interest from the NFL until landing in Baltimore. So got some new faces. He's going to join Chuck Pagano as well as let's see. Oh, okay. They're also predicting that Doug Mallory is unlikely to be back with the team as well on the defensive side. So a lot of defensive changes. Looks like they're getting rid of a lot of younger guys and replacing them with some older guys. So it's ever-changing coaching staff. But I do think this is a sign of the Ravens just saying, we're all in on this next season.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just not mess around. We have a short window here as far as let's shorten the learning curve and make sure we bring in some guys with some tribal knowledge, know what they're doing, and get this thing done.
Love the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don C says Don C gifted 5 410 Sports Talk memberships. Appreciate that, Don. Thank you. And hopefully those that get them will be able to enjoy them. DK, of course, DK's musings, and then we have some behind the scenes show prep stuff on there and other things. So make sure you go check it out. We'll continue to do that as well. But if you haven't already, go check out our community section. Go to our homepage, and then I think you can go to community. DK, isn't that correct? Yeah. And check it out. But so there's a lot of exciting stuff going on from a coaching staff perspective. We talked about both the offense and we talked a little bit about the defense, but I kind of want to delve into this just for a quick second, Glenn. You talked about kind of what you see with the offense and the continuity and things like that. There's already teams talking about the draft, and it seems, there's guys pegging certain players to the Ravens and things like that. Defensively, let's not even focus on offensively. What do you see as their need or their needs?
Oh, yeah. So as far as their needs outside, I do think they need to address Brandon Stevens' position. I think they need to add an outside corner. I think they got a lot of options on the interior, but outside of Wiggins and Marlon, if he wants to be, that's the corners I feel best about on the outside. And outside of that, you got to, but I'd rather have Marlon inside if given the opportunity. So I think a bona fide outside corner is certainly a need. I think providing more additional help to the defensive line, I would not mind a Calais Campbell reunion if he wants to do one more go at it. I do think it'd be nice to add a guy to the defensive side of the ball. I'm not done with this edge position. I still think that's the number one need, Jimbo. I think edge is still going to be the focus because
you don't believe in in our duo, our multi-sack duo.
I do believe in our double-digit sack duo, absolutely. But as good as Kyle Van Noy's playing, it seems like he's getting better with age. We all know that he is getting older, and I think you have to invest in the future. I don't know what their plans are for Odafe Oweh long-term as far as a contract extension.
They're going to sign him to $100 million.
$100
million Baconator contract.
Yeah, whatever it is, I just hope he's realistic with his request because I think we want to keep him here, but he's not getting elite edge rusher money. So I think you still keep throwing stuff at the wall when it comes to that as well. And then what do you do at safety, Jimbo? Because I believe in Ardarius. I believe obviously in Kyle Hamilton, but do you think they still need to, even with the changes they did, do you think they need a third safety that could play with those other two guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely need one. I don't know how high it is for me up on that list. You know what I mean? I agree where like edge and corner there, I could justify one for the other. Like you could argue one for the other, but I don't think that safety is even in that conversation. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So maybe
but definitely a need. Yeah, but I think the way they address it is like the way they did last year, right? They go to the clearance rack and they say, okay, who's a vet? You sign a 1-year deal, and they try it again. You know what I mean? And have some better luck. Digital dust brings up a good point. Do you have to draft a kicker?
Well, we found Justin Tucker undrafted, so I would say undrafted is fine.
And I also wonder what the stats are on the number of kickers being drafted back. You know what I mean? Like,
it's rare.
You think so? Do you think
Kickers
it's
don't
increased
typically get
though? Is I guess
drafted.
what I'm saying. Do you think that it's increased the number of guys getting drafted in comparison to years past? It might be, at least as we get closer to the draft, something to consider looking at.
That's something to consider. But if I remember correctly, a lot of the guys who have been drafted, which were like surprises, it ended up being not so good.
Who's the dude from the Raiders that got drafted? Janikowski?
Yeah, the big boy. Yeah.
Yeah. He could like boot it a mile, everyone's.
Dude, they drafted that dude in the first round, bro.
Was that was that a first rounder?
I believe so. Look it up for us, DK. Where was Janikowski? It was something insane.
He's massive.
And then the Niners, last year, the year before, drafted a punter in the 4th round.
Do they still have him on their team?
I don't know. They've done some real goofy stuff. But look, we found our kickers where you should find a kicker, as an undrafted rookie. Not where was Janikowski drafted? Because it was something insane. He was like a 1st round pick. It was something so stupid. And I remember John Gruden telling story. Yeah, he was the 17th pick in the draft. Like, yeah, look, when I said it, DK went, no way. I saw him in the background. He went, no way, Glenn's right about it. That's how crazy it was. And this dude had a huge drinking, and he used to smoke cigarettes like crazy. Yeah. And I remember he was so hungover one game that Gruden looked at his special teams coordinator and said, we're going to kick this. It was like a 58-yarder. He said, he's still drunk from last night, talking about Janikowski. And drunk-ass Janny went out there and still booted that kick, you know? So, you don't draft a kicker, in my opinion. You can find one as an undrafted free agent. But if you want to spend a 7th rounder on him, I'm okay with that.
Oh, 17th pick, dude.
That's the Raiders, man. That's what they do, man.
Who's the kid that took from Maryland? The fast dude?
Oh, Hayward Bay. Number 7 overall. Yeah. Speedster. Dude,
those guys are still living off those 1st round draft pick,
hopefully
contracts, and thanking the Raiders every day.
Yeah, hopefully, as if they plan their money accordingly. But yeah, I remember, who was that other kicker? I think Tampa Bay took a kicker pretty early, and
he ended up being a dud.
He was like the greatest kicker in college football history.
Yeah, I remember that, and he was just terrible.
Mentally, he was hard. Yeah, he couldn't handle the pressure. It was like a 3rd round pick or something. So yeah, I wouldn't draft one too high. But one thing we could consider here, Jimbo, which is breaking the internet with the news, is Myles Garrett requests, and almost it looks like he kind of is demanding a trade out of Cleveland. Now, we could always look at this as just a negotiation tactic, but it doesn't seem like that is what this is. It seems like he truly wants out of out of Cleveland. And some Ravens fans are going, I don't care if it's not number 8, number 14, or number 22. I don't give a damn if you have to move heaven and earth. You get Myles Garrett. But Jimbo, is there any realistic chance that Myles Garrett could be traded to the Ravens?
No, I hate to be that person to break the news for everybody, but it won't happen simply because we're in the same division. I mean, the last time I remember us transacting with a team in the division was the Wormley. Remember that?
Oh yeah, Chris Wormley for the Steelers.
And then didn't this year he end up back here for like 2 weeks or something?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like, so I feel like it's highly unlikely that a star is going to get traded inside the division. I mean, I think that there's other things that are of much higher likelihood than that. So I think he would look great in purple. I think he would love to be here, and we would obviously love to have him. And I think we'd give up.
Do you imagine this defense with Myles Garrett?
I know it'd be a pretty historic haul. I mean, to do that, but
you think 3 ones would get him?
I mean, I guess, but so what you're saying is, Glenn, if the Ravens just come out with 3 ones, even if it's in the division, but would it be that much better than other? Like, what would it take for them to disregard the fact that it's the Ravens? You know what I'm saying?
That's the question. Because the problem the Ravens have is, and I don't know if a lot of Ravens fans know this, that the Ravens are the most hated team in Cleveland. Like, as much as you can't stand the Steelers, the Browns hate the Ravens because they truly believe that we stole their championship in 2000. They think that was their title. They would have won Cleveland not leave? It's obviously a delusional thought, but they really believe that we stole their chances at a Super Bowl and think that they would have got it. So they hate the Ravens, absolutely hate it. It would be the equivalent of the Ravens trading Ray Lewis to the Steelers if Ray Lewis wanted to leave. Like, that's basically what we're talking about. Or Terrell Suggs. Since
different ownership, though.
Different ownership, yeah.
Yeah, and Haslam is an idiot. I mean, he's a goofball, right?
He is a goofball. But could you imagine, like, if he comes here and helps us get our third title, the city would burn down their stadium. Like, it would be insane. It would be like what the Eagles are doing to the Giants right now, and how Giants are like. I was hanging out with a Giants fan from New York. Shout out to Mr. Pat, and he is sick. He's sick watching Saquon right now. Absolutely sick.
And isn't Danny Dimes unemployed?
I mean, absolutely. He's not even on the team anymore. He went to Minnesota and was the backup for Darnold for a little bit, but I don't even think he's still there. But yeah, so that would be. Now, here's the good news for Ravens fans. The absolute great news is he's out of the division. We do not have to play Myles Garrett twice a year. And in fact, I would be stunned if he's even in the conference. He would likely be traded to an NFC team. And finally, the world's best pass rushers won't all reside in the AFC North. Thank God.
Yeah. I mean, well, the best one, Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe, they'll still be here.
Yeah, buddy.
That's right. 1 and 2, baby. 1A, 1B. That's a good point. I didn't think about that initially in the fact that that's a guy that we won't have to play 2 times a year. But man,
you think Ronnie Stanley's height?
Yeah, just a little bit. But wouldn't it also be of the Browns' narrative that he does end up in Baltimore and we do end up winning a Super Bowl and they do continue to be the factory of sadness? You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be right in line with their story, right? So
yeah. I think also what people aren't forgetting is that the contract stuff. Like, DK, what's his contract cap hit going to be?
Right.
So, like, even if the Browns were like, all right, we will do business with you if you're the highest bidder. You got to be the highest bidder, but we'll do business. I don't even know if it's like the amount of people. Now, we would cut some people for Myles Garrett. They would make room, but it would be a lot of room they got to make to get him.
Odafe? Yeah,
dude, they would. I mean, as much as they love Kyle Van Noy, they would. Yeah, they hear to him too. If it's Myles Garrett, I mean, what are we talking about? This guy's.
Man, how weird would it be? See Odafe running around in a Browns jersey.
It'll be fitting, you know.
The ultimate payback for making me eat a Baconator, dude.
That's right. Yeah, now it would be. I would actually be sad to see Odafe over there, but
yeah, even I would be sad.
Maybe that's the thing that gets us over the edge. 3 1s and Odafe.
Hey, dude, he's a good double-digit sacks, baby. Don't forget, double-digit sacks. Young, that's right. Good pass rusher. Good run defender. But I agree with you. I mean, I think the chances are slim. The chances are slim that he ends up here. Freaking Myles Garrett.
Let's remember, guys. Let's focus on the good thing. We don't have to play him.
Yeah.
Twice a year at least. Maybe once every 4 years, because I think he will go to an NFC team. So once every 4 years, we got to deal with this guy. And if we make it to the Super Bowl, that's it.
Yeah. DK says his cap hit is it's $20 million. I mean, $19.7 million. Yeah, that would be a ton of gymnastics.
How many years does he have left, DK, in his deal?
2 years. Okay. So 25
2 more guaranteed.
2 more guaranteed. 25 and 26.
So 2 more for real, and then probably some BS years that won't actually be.
Let me ask you this. What do you think that Cooper Kupp's going to get on the open market? Not that we need him or anything like that. I'm just curious. What do you think not open market, the trade market.
What does he get? Oh, man. What did Khalil Mack get? Because that's, I think, where you start. Because Khalil
Mack. Cooper Kupp, even though he's just been unhealthy?
What's that?
With Cooper Kupp, even though he's been unhealthy?
What, trade for him?
No, I'm saying, what do you think Cooper Kupp will get in a
okay.
I meant Myles Garrett?
Yeah, I thought you said Myles Garrett.
I was like, okay.
So Cooper Kupp, what does he get? Oh, man. See, it's so different with receiver because, I don't think he even gets a 1.
Yeah.
I think he gets maybe a 2, but I think it's most likely he gets a 3.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And he's obviously pissed off. He doesn't want to leave LA. I don't blame him. $78 million a year. For who? What is this for? Oh, Cooper Kupp. Yeah, I don't think they get much more than a third. I think third round might be the best. Yeah, I think Jax has got it right.
Yeah. Is there any interest there? Any interest?
I think he'd be a good fit for us.
I think so too. I think
as a third receiver, as a possession guy, a move the chain guy, he makes tough catches. He's a great route runner. When he's
maybe you go to him in the cold and maybe not 89.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but yeah, I don't mean that. And I'm not poking at Mark. I'm just being honest, right? Like, you go to a guy in crunch time where, like you said, to be a chain mover. Our chain mover for the most part is Mark, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I mean, imagine this guy is your third wideout. Like that's pretty insane. Now, the cap number is got to be. It would have to be a creative deal, like Jax is suggesting, where they eat some of the cap. In return for a higher pick. So basically we'll say, all right, you want a fourth, we'll give you a third, but you got to eat a bunch of the cost. That would be the only way I could see it. But man, he would, as far as a fit, I mean, he would be absolutely perfect for what we need.
Yeah, it would be fun. I keep thinking that could be a sneaky move. That the Ravens, like, that people aren't seeing on the Ravens' radar. But look, like you said, Glenn, NFC to AFC. Yeah, it's probably more likely that way.
Similar offense in a lot of ways. Monken is moving towards that type of offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, all I'm saying is keep your eye out there.
Dude, I would be so hyped. I mean, of course you got to hope he can stay healthy, but knock on wood, the Ravens coaching staff and the way they've, the shout to the trainers and their adjusted practice schedule. I can only say that all those combination of all those things has led to this team being relatively healthy. But of course, injuries to some degree are just luck, good or bad luck.
And that's honestly going into next year. That's outside of us beating ourselves, but it's my biggest concern is, like, will we get through a season where all 5 of our starting offensive linemen are healthy by the end of the season, going into the playoffs? You know what I mean? Will we go through a season where Lamar's healthy? Will Derek be healthy?
Will Bateman stay healthy?
Right. Right. Now we had a stroke of bad luck with Zay. But if you just think about the guys up front, how many teams in the playoffs or not in the playoffs had battled injuries up front with their offensive line, and you know what I mean, in comparison to those that were in the playoffs that had healthy offensive lines, right?
Well, again, you look at the trenches for these 2 Super Bowl teams, and you'd be hard pressed to find a better set of interior offensive and defensive lines than those 2 teams in the Super Bowl. I mean, the Eagles are probably the best in the league, both on offense and defensive line, and I think you could argue the Chiefs are second. Like, so the play or the blueprint is there, Jimbo. Build from the inside out. And one thing I've heard also, which was I think Kevin Ostreicher initially posted about this, that Micah Parsons isn't happy. Apparently, there's even some people in the building that don't necessarily think Micah's the right guy. They think a lot of his off the field stuff, and there's been some rumblings the Cowboys aren't exactly thrilled with Micah Parsons. I saw a proposed trade that would send not just the first round pick, but also Zay Flowers to Dallas in exchange for Micah Parsons. And the explanation was like, look, we've already seen Lamar take an offense that doesn't have a ton of outside weapons and make them a great top elite offense. Imagine Micah Parsons in purple with this defense. And, look, I don't want Zay to go anywhere. I love me some Zay Flowers. My son loves Zay. I know, the fans, I mean, just the way he plays, you obviously can see he loves football. But it got me thinking, like, because last year we weren't sold on Bateman yet, but now we kind of feel pretty good about Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Now, let me say this though, Glenn, to that. I'm not a coach. I'm not a talent scout. I'm none of that. So take this how you may. But one of my concerns about Micah Parsons is I do feel like a little bit of his game is a one-trick pony, and that he's incredibly fast for his position. But what if as he gets older, what if he loses a step? What if he then isn't incredibly fast? Like, does he develop other parts of his game? I mean, when you watch highlights of Micah Parsons, guys are stuck in buckets, right? He's incredibly fast, but I don't know. I don't see him as overly technical or incredibly strong or, like, you know what I mean? He's wicked fast. And that's, a big part of his game. And so I'm just trying to look, I could be splitting hairs here. I'm not saying this guy's not an incredible football player. My point is that's a reservation I have, albeit small, about Micah Parsons' game.
Well, I haven't watched a ton of just him specifically, but I know he turns that speed to power pretty much as good as anyone in the league. He can, I just remember that Ravens game. While we handled them, I watched that. That dude is someone you have to absolutely game plan around. He's fast. He's also incredibly powerful, like in that ability to turn speed into just explosive,
Yeah.
I think he's an absolute freak of nature.
No, he is. So let me ask you, if you had to take Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, who would you take?
Oh my God, you're talking about the top of the mountain there. Right, for 1 year or for even maybe 2 years, 3 years, I'd probably take Myles Garrett. But he is a little bit older than
I think Myles is like 31 now, or is that?
But Myles is still the best in my opinion. But right behind him is
no, don't get me wrong.
Right behind
him. And that's my point.
Myles.
Like if I'm nitpicking, like extremely nitpicking,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Then that would be my only thing. Like if you forced me to say something, I'm not saying the guy's not powerful or anything like that, but I think it's also fair to say that Myles Garrett is probably
Myles is a freak.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
If he wasn't playing, he could be the heavyweight UFC champion if he wanted to be. Like he's
in 6 months. I feel confident that that's all he wanted to do.
He's just he's a monster.
Yeah, I agree.
He's literally, he took powers away from a bunch of people and made one person.
Myles is 30 this year. Okay. Yeah. Don C says, I don't know about you, but I'm not eating any more delicious Royal Farms chicken for a while. All joking aside. Yeah, let me not read this with a smile on my face. All joking aside, sorry, those women were exposed to that hypocrite. When's the first 410 Sports Talk mock draft? That definitely will be coming up. And look, Don C, like I said, first thing I said, if this is the case and it's true, dude should be under the jail, right? Like, this is ridiculous. People should not be doing this to people. People should be allowed to work safely.
It's so ridiculous too.
Right?
Like, it's always like, why? Like, I don't want to go back to it, but it's always just like Deshaun is a perfect example. You saw he's got like a social media thing. I don't know if it's his girlfriend's or if it's his, but they're doing TikToks, like dances and stuff. I'm like, this guy is a young, good looking, incredibly wealthy, incredibly fit. Like, why are you being a creepo when you could,
your prospects are so much higher than that of a normal person.
Right. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, I can get it almost when you see like, some disgusting, super wealthy, older getting accused of this kind of stuff. Cause it's like, he's so gross. Like these guys are young, good looking, wealthy, in shape. Like there's no excuse for these guys to be just horrible, creeps. Like I just weird. It's weird. Not that there's there's no excuse, but you know what I'm saying? Like
I understand.
You kind of can see like, all right, this dude.
It's just perplexing. It's so perplexing, right?
Why are y'all doing this shit? Like you don't need. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But to Digital Dust, Micah's 25 and Myles Garrett's 30. So from that,
like I said, I'm splitting hairs big time. I'm just saying, if I had one thing to point to, it's like, I just wonder. That's all. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. No one's a perfect prospect, except Andrew Luck was a perfect prospect.
Dude, I just recently listened to Gruden talk about that, dude. He just talked about it at Barstool interview like 5 days ago or something like that, and listen to him talk about Andrew Luck as a prospect is like listen to somebody talk about their firstborn child's like dude, first of all, Gruden loves ball, dude. Like, God, does he love ball? His whole life is ball. And the way he talked about, it was funny, man. The way he talked about Luck. That dude was special, man.
Whew. Yeah.
His brain, dude. His brain at college was already like so advanced past so many pro quarterbacks. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there were some other things that we talked about pre-show that I want to talk about now. Speaking of brain, I cannot remember them. The Super Bowl.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Guess we got to talk about it. It is around the corner. Odds on favorite right now are the Eagles, correct?
That's a good question. Let me see what
correct.
BetOnline, because
let's see what
BetOnline,
says.
I don't know if you know about this, but they are the most trusted online betting platform
Just
and
in
your
case you
number
weren't
one
aware.
source. Yeah. They're number one source for online wagering. And nobody does it better than BetOnline. But let me see. Huh?
Promo code BELIEVE.
Yeah, promo code BLEAV. Don't forget that to get. What is going on here? I'm trying to pull up the line here, and my computer's acting really slow. But I believe you are correct. Do you have any Ravens fans in the chat? Is there any? Or DK. Is there any excitement at this Super Bowl? Do you have any rooting interest on either side, or are you just hoping they both, play a 5 overtime, exhausting tie game?
Just ends in a tie.
That's what I'm hoping for. The first tie in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. This is the least excited I've been for a Super Bowl in a long time, Glenn.
Is that because you're so incredibly disappointed how the Ravens season ended, or is it the two participants?
I'm happy for Philly. I think Philly deserves to be there. I think they are truly the best team in the NFC. I think Philly's the best team in football. If you look at the way that they beat us, Glenn, the way that they beat us, very few teams can beat us. If that makes sense. Like, they did a very good job at controlling the line of scrimmage. They didn't beat us because we simply just beat ourselves. We made plenty of mistakes, but they played their game.
They forced our mistakes.
Yeah, they controlled the offensive and defensive line, and not a lot of teams can do that against Baltimore. I think that's a big, that's a sign of how good they are as a football team. Like, if you believe in the Baltimore Ravens and then you go look at the way they beat us, speaks volumes about Philly.
Yeah.
And so I think that they win this game. Like you said, I mean, if it's close, of course it goes to the Chiefs. But that part of the reason why I'm not excited about it is the narrative is just tiring. It's just tired. It's old. It's boring. The Chiefs narrative is not fun. Like, it's just not fun. There's no desire for me to get behind it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not like hardcore rooting for the Eagles, but I do think the Eagles absolutely deserve to be in this game, and their team is built for this, man.
They're built the right way. They have monsters in the trenches that play well, and then let's not forget they got some pretty good players on the outside. And Saquon Barkley is fun. He's easy to root for, fun to watch. I hope he wins MVP, like Digital Dust said. I will say quickly, the Chiefs are a 1-point favorite on BetOnline
and ESPN bets. Of course, they are on ESPN bets.
Yeah, but here's what I hope doesn't happen. I hope to goodness that we're not talking about the referees come Monday morning after the Super Bowl. And because here's the thing, as many people who talk about the conspiracy theories, I don't want them to be true for a second. It would completely ruin all sports for me. I hope to heck that there's some big conspiracy to get these guys to win. But it's hard to like look at some of this stuff and just go, it's just coincidence. It's just, it is what it is. And I know a lot have been talking about the referees lately, and Roger Goodell came out and denied it and said it was ridiculous and all this and stuff. But while I couldn't get all of this tweet to load, I can't get past, Warren Sharp. I don't know if anyone does better job of doing in-depth dives into whatever topic that is in the football world. But this stat is crazy, right? Like, over the last 4 years in the Chiefs' 11 playoff games, there were 0 games of those 11 where the Chiefs had more penalties. And 10 of those 11 games where opponents did have more penalties. So it's hard to just ignore that. So I think my take on this is the Chiefs to win, they will win if it's a close game. Yeah. And if the Eagles can blow their doors off and make it undeniable, then the Eagles will win.
So let me say this. I'm going to tell you how I think that this game goes. Okay? I think that Philly jumps out to a 10-point lead. And then in the second half, the Chiefs come storming back in miraculous fashion, right? And then I think we go into the fourth quarter, and it's a 3-point Philly lead. and then it's a toss-up at that point.
Well, I don't like that because I think Pat Mahomes is pretty damn good in the clutch.
Right, and that's what they want it to be, right? See, I'm not trying to feed to the conspiracy, but like, anyway. Yeah, but that's just how I see this thing happening. I do think Philly jumps out, but I don't know if they have the – dude, their defense is so good. Like, why shouldn't I believe that they can contain – Andy, this is the other thing. I'm all over the place, but Andy is just a dang good coach. Like, how do you stop an Andy Reid offense consistently for an entire football game that has one of the best quarterbacks of all time under center? That in and of itself is difficult.
You counter with the greatest defensive coordinator in the NFL, and Vic Fangio, right? That's what they say. He's the highest paid defensive assistant in the league for a reason.
Well, and you play keep away too.
That's a good point.
Saquon
can help with that.
And you said it, Glenn. The Chiefs' defensive line is very good. Well, the Eagles' offensive line is very good and coming to play.
You know what's crazy? Imagine if they still had the other Kelsey brother at center.
He's got to be thinking that every day of his life.
He's probably going, God dang it, why didn't I play one more year?
Yep.
Because that guy was like the leader of that group.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. They could be even more dominant up front than they already are. But
so you have to pick one, though, Glenn. Who wins?
The Eagles.
The Eagles win. I think the Eagles win as well.
I'm picking the team with the best offense and defensive lines. That's what I'm picking.
Yep, I agree.
And they're star-studded around them, too.
Yeah, right. It's not even like it's just those guys. They have so many weapons around them.
I love how they invested early picks into young secondary. I mean, what they did to overhaul that secondary, I think was incredible. They picked a bunch of guys who I think were overlooked for various reasons. I think we know why some of those reasons, particularly some of the guys like Blankenship.
Their last names are weird. Blankenship and
DeJean.
And DeJean, yeah.
Yeah, I think we know why some of it, but both those guys, even though they continuously get insulted by retired NFL players, and I saw them like, somebody just went on this thing just bashing Blankenship. Like, has anyone ever said he ain't open? Like, it's just like, why you got – it's just crazy. Guys had a great season, by the way. And I do think that they're the better roster overall. I think the best quarterback is pretty clear. It's Pat Mahomes. I think if you were to rank where Hurts is as far as the best player on his team. Now, importance, quarterback's always important, but he's not. I don't think he's that close to the top of the list on just the offensive side of the ball. Whereas Pat Mahomes is obviously the best player on the Chiefs, so him and Chris Jones, I guess. But I think it's Pat Mahomes. So best quarterback or best team, Jimbo, I think is what it comes down to. What do you think?
You put it like that, it makes it even harder to choose. But I agree with you in that it all starts and ends with the big boys up front. And I think that the Eagles are too dominant. They have been throughout the season. And I just hearken back to the way they beat us. I really think that shows their true identity as a team and their dominance, both offensively and defensively, on the line of scrimmage. So I think it will be a big problem for Kansas City and a bit overwhelming. So, yeah, I think that if they will be successful at limiting the impact of the Chiefs' offense and wearing out their defense. Because, look, this run this year, a lot of it has been shouldered by that Chiefs' defense. As much as, to your point, obviously Mahomes is the best and the most important player on that team, but gosh dang it, Chris Jones is nipping at them heels, boy. Because this season especially, man, he seems unstoppable in some games. Yes, I've never seen a human make football gear look so small in my life. Like
so Jonathan Ogden.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Nobody did it better than him.
How did he get his head in the helmet?
It looked like they built it around his head to where it couldn't come off. Yeah, like it just couldn't come off. He's brushing his teeth.
Unscrew it. It's like a pit stop after the game.
It's like Iron Man. He just steps into a platform and all these arms come out and remove his gear. Yeah. He looked the most ridiculous. His shoulder pads looked tiny. His helmet looked super tiny to his big, gigantic body. It looked like a dad wearing his kids' clothes, like opposite.
Right.
But yeah, no, I hope like heck we don't have to hear for all of eternity about the Chiefs three-peat. I saw Pat Riley has allowed, because apparently he has three-peat copyrighted, which is it's just hilarious to me that we can literally do this. Stop people from saying three-peat for all of time. But he's allowed the Chiefs to momentarily use the term three-peat. So thanks to Riley. Appreciate you.
Gosh. Was there any other Ravens news we wanted to catch up on?
No, I mean, I will say that, of course, now we will be turning our attentions fully to the offseason. So that means, first and foremost, I think our next video will start to go into, who do the Ravens have potentially to re-sign? Who are we looking to bring back? And then we move to free agency. Who's going to be an upcoming free agent? Because, the Ravens want to go into that draft with all their major holes filled so they can do their best player available.
And of course, we're not just going to look at the free agents that are out there on the market. We're going to analyze the free agents that we want to keep, free agents that we, are going to walk, things like that.
Yep, absolutely. And then we'll go all in on draft coverage. We'll bring in some of our draft experts. I know a lot of the guys have already been hitting it pretty hard. I'm sure we expect to get DraftPlex back on here. I know Cole's been hitting it hard. So we'll get you covered from that standpoint. Everything that goes with the draft. We'll do our mock drafts. We'll do all our predictions. But we have a long off season ahead of us, so we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We don't want to start putting mock drafts out tomorrow. We will slow build this up to the final result. But, man, this time of year, especially once this stinking-ass Super Bowl is over, I get excited about team building. I love watching the team get built, the changes be made. I just hope like heck that all these changes are for the better and we can finally get over the hump. But I'm excited about this offseason, Jimbo.
No, I'm glad you're excited. I'm still struggling. I'm excited about it, but I'm just still.
The Super Bowl needs to get passed so you can get past it.
Right, absolutely. Once this thing is dead and gone, and you stick a fork in this season, then I think I'll be able to get there. But I'm with you, man. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to you guys enjoying the ride. Hopefully, this year we're going to have some get-togethers between the three of us, and if we have anything exciting or new that we're going to be doing for the show, if you guys have any suggestions, anything you want to see, let us know. And that's it for us tonight, folks. We'll be back soon. See ya. In the offseason, do we?
Yeah, we do it.
Do we